Hello everyone, my name is Draft Hoagland and welcome back to another Draft Today video. So we open our first pack here in our 665 draft. There's a number of cards in this pack that are playable. Battle Preparations is excellent if you're in a wild deck in general. It's very good if you end up with the Conscript archetype. Arena Regular is pretty good in the Charges Matters decks. One of the, better payoff cards in that archetype for sure. Mosh Pit Gladiator here is a fine blood card. You can put the Intimidation Gem in it, so it becomes a 5/1 that can't be blocked by troops with power less than 5. Web Spinner Prelate is not a reason to move into blood, but if you're already in blood and you're focusing on Dreadlings, just make sure Dreadlings attack for 2, which is great. And then we have a Consult the Talents here, which is probably the best of the uncommons and the rares in this pack. Mobilize, 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 draw 3 cards. This can be a 1-cost, draw 3. I think that's objectively the best card here, and it's going to ultimately be the one I pick. If we wanted to just be rare drafting for money, this Wall of Conquest isn't completely unreasonable. In fact, in yesterday's draft, we picked one of those up and ended up playing it, but I'm really kind of hard-pressed to pass the Consult the Talents. We're 10 out of 10 going to play a Consult most of the time, unless we get hard cut off of Sapphire in this draft, and it's just a very powerful card in that chart. As we look at this pack here, someone took the rare out of it, it looks like. None of the uncommons are particularly impressive. Blessed Scout, Conscripting, and Ardent Troop that cost 1, and True Heart Skirmisher, another Mobilized Troop are both like reasonable cards, but like nothing too terribly exciting to write home about. We have a Chastise here that's like one of the better removal spells in the format. It's also, I guess Blessed Scout's also a good diamond card, so we can't cut the only good diamond card out of this pack. The best Sapphire card in this pack is probably Skyspire Scholar. 0/6 for 3 that it can one-shot to draw 6 cards. It's very good at helping you gum up the board in your more controlling Sapphire decks in this format, so I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the Skyspire Scholar here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then it's like the best Sapphire card in this pack. We'll kind of try and stay open. The Eager Lackey is the best wild card in this pack, but I don't really want to move into a second shard for an Eager Lackey. Look at our next pack here. There's only one good Sapphire card in this pack as well, and it's this Web Scribe. So either that means this pack was light on... It was light on Sapphire cards to begin with, or someone else has already been picking out of it. Hopefully it is the former and not the latter. We're 10 out of 10 going to pick this Web Scribe because it sends the message to people who are passing to that they should stay out of Sapphire. Iotachi Cavalry and Diamond's Favor are both very playable uncommons, though. Diamond's Favor can clean up Constants from the Constants champions. It's reasonable removal. It's also like a fine blowout inside of combat. Iotachi Cavalry is one of the better Ruby cards, uncommons in this set. When it becomes Valorous, it can't be blocked by non-Valorous troops. And there's so little Valor in this format that essentially this card becomes unblockable a lot of the time. We're 10 out of 10 going to pick up the Web Scribe, though, and hopefully avoid moving into a second shard for the time being. Look at this next pack here. We again are gifted a single reasonable Sapphire card, Cerulean Sage, just a 0/3 for 1 that Diligence gets +2 in Flight until the start of your next turn. And we've got Consult the Talents here already as one Mobilized Enabler, so I'm pretty happy to pick up this Cerulean Sage as the only playable Sapphire card in this pack, and just continuing to increase our chances of getting good Sapphire cards coming back around to us in the next pack, because we're not passing any good Sapphire this time around. Other cards that are reasonable in this pack, we passed a Battle Prep earlier, so if someone picked that up, they'll probably be happy to pick up this Draka Outcast. Surge-Fifth Engineer is a reasonable Ruby uncommon in this pack. It's okay in the Charges archetype. Strike Force Sergeant is reasonable, but it's kind of hard to commit to Ruby and Diamond early. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and grab this Sage, like I said, and really not too sure what we want to wheel out of this pack yet, because we're not sure what our second shard is going to be just yet. Let's look at this next pack here. I think at this point we're going to start speculatively moving into another shard. I don't think Wind's Whim or Shroud are particularly playable. I could grab this Arena Regular here, just like in hope that the other one comes back around. Whenever you gain a charge, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. I don't hate that. Like 4 people have taken cards out of this pack, and no one's picked up the Arena Regular just yet. There's a lot of Ruby cards in this pack, but none of them are particularly powerful aside from the Arena Regular. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and stake that. There's also consideration of like grabbing the Wakuna coin here, just in case we end up in Sapphire Diamond. Often you do with Ada, but It's kind of speculative. Crossing Swords is a reasonable wild card, but Diamond Wild or Sapphire Wild is kind of medium in general. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this Arena Regular and see where we go from there. Even if we don't end up in a Charges Archetype Matters, like this card's just like plenty fine. Look at our next pack here. We have a Grolk and a Butcher here. Grolk's kind of slow and clunky, but like the way we're set up with like Web Scribe and Skyspire Scholar, we're like kind of moving towards Clunk being okay. That being said, this Butcher made it past 5 people, and this is one of the better pieces of blood removal in the format, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pick this up and just kind of wait and see what else starts coming around. So if we see other quality blood cards like this Butcher, that's probably a sign that we should be moving into blood. Look at our next pack here. Wow, nothing good in Sapphire. There's a ton of Diamond in here, but none of the cards are particularly impressive. Mesa Caretaker is good, okay in the Conscript decks, but just like still kind of medium in general. I don't mind picking up Dread Apprentice, so Scrounge 1 summons 3 Dreadlings. We might end up in a Theros deck, and this card's very good in Theros, but this card's also very good at enabling Shadowblade Slicer, which is one of the more powerful blood cards you get at the top end of your curve. So we move into this pack here, we've got a Callous Carver, which is a 1/5 for 4 that Diligence gives +4 and life drain until the start of our next turn. I think that's the pickup here. Like, this card's like a total bomb in the mid to late game. Like, we have already one mobilized card to enable it. I wouldn't mind if this Tomb Swap came back around. I don't mind playing 1 to 2 of those in my deck a lot of the time, but looks like we're moving firmly into Sapphire Blood here. Another Arena Regular came back around. There's also a Mosh Pit Gladiator here too, though. So I have a decision, right? Like, I could pick up this other Arena Regular speculatively and, like, kind of wait and see what happens with the next pack, or I could grab this Mosh Pit Gladiator that I'm fairly likely to end up playing. We already have a lot of powerful cards in both these shards, and I'm not, like, Mosh Pit Gladiator is, like, kind of medium, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this other Arena Regular just in case those end up coming around and being reasonable for us. Same thing here. Mechanized Gem Scout and Arachno Glider are like okay cards, but Iotachi Coins is insane with Arena Regular, so I'm just gonna keep picking those effectively. I'm like, if we see a couple of like Rock Sliders and other good Ruby cards in the mid to late of the next pack, we might pivot off of one of these 2 shards that we already have into a Charges Matters deck. Don't want to try and force it, but like we got an Arena Regular that wheeled here and a coin that wheeled that's Ruby, so usually that's an okay sign that one of those 2 is open. And I think particularly impressive in this pack, gonna go ahead and grab the Blood-Eye Defiler for now, I guess. This is like the closest thing to playable. This is pretty good against like opposing aggressive decks when you're playing Blood. It's like a 3/5 for 5 that like gets you a little bit of life back when you have the Underworld Allegiance clause met. Alright, what do we got here? Mechanized Compactor, sacrifice an artifact, this +3 power permanently. Doesn't seem particularly good. Necropolis Garroter is a card like I'm never embarrassed to play. It's like a 2/2 for 2 that diligences to get lethal until our next turn, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up. Kinda have the cards for a Theros deck so far. We've got a lot of Underworld troops. So go ahead and grab this Roid Bot for now. Nothing else in this pack is particularly exciting. We've got like 8 playables out of this pack, so like well on track here to like having the, you know, 23 or so playables that we're looking for in most decks. 22, 23. Oh, I guess I'll grab a Shriek here. Things we're not playing for 100. All the Roid Bots, just in case we decide we want to play a Tri-Shard deck. Alright, and there's the cementing into our Blood Sapphire deck. Just like Underworld Officer, such a ridiculously powerful card. 10 out of 10 picking this up. It's a 2/2. It's unblockable for 3 that attacks. It gets +1 power for each Underworld troop you control, and it counts itself. So this is guaranteed a 3/2 unblockable attacker. Would love it if the Strangle, the Web Scribe, or the Butcher come back around to us. We got a Butcher 5th pick in the last pack, so that gives me hope that the Strangle or the Butcher is going to come back around to us out of here. Alrighty, get some more reasonable cards in here. Shackling Strands is a pretty premium removal spell. At the start of each combat, target troop gets exhaust to this. We only have Butcher as removal so far, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. Out of this pack, cards that we're hoping wheel would love the Web Scribe, the Webborn Apostate, or the Cheap Shot to come back around, but I think Shackling Strands is our top priority at this point. Alright, sweet. We got a Warp Steel Chargeborn here, which is just like a great card to pair with Underworld Officer. We also put the Dreadling Gem in this that makes it pretty reasonable along with if we end up playing Theraz, so just like 2 Underworld bodies for us. Would love it if this Coin or the Mosh Pit Gladiator come back around for us, but 10 out of 10 want the Chargeborn here. Worth noting there's a Rock Slider here, so if someone else would have picked up these Arena Regulars, they probably would have had a pretty reasonable Charges Matters deck out of this draft, but there's no way we're pivoting off of our Underworld plan at this point. If we're really fortunate, we'll get a second Underworld Officer passed to us, but yeah. This pack, a couple different directions this pack could go. We have a Mindvac Sorcerer, which is an Underworld troop that counts towards our Officer and possibly Theraz if we're playing it. But I think Cloudbounder is actually just the objectively more powerful card. It's a 3/3 for 5 with Mobilize and Flight, so we can play this on the 3rd turn of the game a lot of the time as an additional evasive threat. We've already got 1, 2, 3, 4 troops that cost 2 or less, so I'm 10 out of 10 going to go ahead and pick up this Cloudbounder. If we're really lucky, the Mindvac Sorcerer will wheel, but that card's pretty powerful, so I won't be surprised when it doesn't. Look in our next pack here, we get another Cloudbounder headed our way. So yep, 10 out of 10, pretty excited to just snap that right on up there. If we are fortunate, the Callous Carver will wheel back around to us, but this deck feels like it's a little bit more aggressive on average than defensive, so 10 out of 10 picking this Cloudbounder. Worth noting there's another Rock Slider right here, so the Charges deck is definitely open. So I'd like 1 to 2 more 1 and 2 drops in this deck. Hopefully we can get like a Jet Cadet in our 3rd pack or something along those lines. Would love another Warp Steel Chargeborn, but we've got 3 evasive threats to play in the 3rd turn of the game. We got Callous Carver to help enable with the Cloudbounder, the Cthulhu Talon. So deck's rounding out pretty well here. We got a Webborn Apostate here, so that sounds fantastic. I'd prioritize the Dread Prince a little bit higher if we had picked up any Shadowblade Slicers, but we've only got 2 more new packs to look at here, so it doesn't sound like we're going to get any Slicers out of this draft. But Webborn Apostate, 2/1 for 2, takes a charge from our opponent and gives it to us, so 10 out of 10. Pretty happy to have that in our deck. The Skyspire Scholar would be a nice card to wheel out of that pack, but we definitely need 2 drops more than we did more 3s. Remember, even though these Cloudbounders are sitting up here in the 5, they're really in the 3 drop slot if we have enough 1s and 2s to flush things out. As we look at this pack here, good lord, I wish I would have just picked up all of these Rock Sliders and just had a plan. Good golly, these Rock Sliders, right? There's nothing in this pack that's super exciting in one direction or another. There's a Blood's Favor that's plenty playable. There's a Power in Paint. There's a Vigilant Duskwing sitting over here. I was almost about to say, maybe I'm just going to, like, grab this Rock Slider, wheel all of the others, and just, like, play Tri-Shard Theraz because I've been going through a Rock Slider addiction lately, but there's no way I can pass up this Vigilant Duskwing. It's like a 3/5 flight for 5. It's just, like, super powerful. It's Underworld, so it's going to trigger Theraz for it. This card plays offense and defense simultaneously since it readies on the start of each turn. It slices, it dices, it flies over your opponent's heads and beats them to death. Draft more Vigilant Duskwings. I think super exciting in here. I guess I'll take this Blood's Favor, just like drawing 2 cards, losing 2 life is a fine effect, and like occasionally you'll just like void your opponent's crypt and get a bunch of life out of it. We're already up to 16 playables here, and we're only halfway through the second pack. So again, the theme of we generally have more than enough playables in this format is holding true. We'll see if any of the things we were looking for wheel to wheel come back around. The Butcher saw the entire table. So the Strangle got picked up out of this pack, so we're definitely fighting for someone else for some of the blood cards, but it's exactly one other person picking up blood cards in this draft right now, so that's pretty good for us. This pack, we got the Cheap Shot to come back around, but there's also this Necropolis Garroter here. We're up to 1, 2, 3... 4, 5. We only have 5 cards that cost 2 or less. We're 10 out of 10 playing this Cheap Shot if we draft it, but I think the fact that I'm on 2 Cloudbounders and a Consult the Talons means I just need this Necropolis Garroter. Like, sometimes you can play your Cheap Shot out, your troop out from the Cheap Shot on the second turn of the game, but that requires your opponent to have it. There's the Rock Sliders coming back around. Alright, there's nothing else playable in this pack in our archetype. I'm just drafting these Rock Sliders, and maybe we'll be silly and play... If we get all 3 of the Rock Sliders, we will play the Arena Regulars and the Rock Sliders. I don't think we're going to get all 3 of them. I'm pretty sure one of them we actually can't get, but we'll see. On the off chance they all come around, we are just, like, jamming them in and playing them. The most playable card in this pack is probably the Feral Root Tactics, followed closely by the Gallant Sentinel. Because we have flying troops in our deck, I'm going to go ahead and grab the Sentinel. You aren't guaranteed to play within your pod, but if you do play within your pod, this card, you know, the first batch, you want to cut cards that could potentially be good against you. And there's the second slider that came back around, so, you know, doing God's work here. Nothing super exciting in here. Shroud's, like, playable. Gives your troop spell shield until end of turn and readies it, so it triggers Diligence for you as a surprise. I guess we'll pick up a Snarling Brave. None of those cards particularly exciting. Just kind of at the dredge end of the pack here. We've already got 18 playables in our main deck here, so plenty happy to just fill out the rest in this third pack. Probably want, like, 5 more playables in this archetype if we're playing. Ooh. This pack is stacked. There's the Lava Shaper we wanted very desperately in our last draft deck. I mean, what are we doing here? This pack's got a lot of different directions it can go. Death's Head Rider is just like a premium card. Scrounge 2, each opposing champion sacrifices a troop. But just a 2/3 flight for 3 is like super reasonable. There's also a Mechanized Aerialist here, which is Assault. It gets -1 cost, and it's a 3/4 with flight. Man, it's a lot of different ways this pack go. I could even see an argument being made for just like pick up the Silver Talon Adjudicator and splash it. Like this card is very, very powerful. Just 3/2 flight. It's probably not worth the splash when there's a Death's Head Rider, a Mechanized Aerialist, and even just like playable removal and Explosion here. I feel like I've got enough 1s and 2s that I'm just going to grab this Mechanized Aerialist. This card's like really powerful and it's another flying bomb for our top end, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and grab this. If we're fortunate, the Explosion or the Death's Head Rider are going to wheel. I think our reads, there's only one other player drafting Blood at the table is correct, in which case we're going to get one of those 2 to come back around. Man, this pack, like, you know, last draft, the risk in Ruby is that all the Ruby cards mostly are in the last pack, so this pack's good for us too. We got a Dread Driver here, 1/4 with Rage 1, must attack. At the start of your turn, you get a Dreadling equal to this troop's power, so every turn it gets bigger and makes more Mushroom Men. There's also a Jet Cadet here, but I think I can't pass up this Dread Driver. Like, on an uncontested board, or a board where, like, they just can't block this properly because you've got, like, Butchers or Shackling Strands or something, like, this card gets out of control really fast, especially with Theraz as our champion. That's also going to enable Assault on this Mechanized Aerialist. There's a Jet Cadet in that pack as well. If we're really fortunate, the Jet Cadet's going to come back around, but I'd be pretty surprised if there's no one else at Sapphire at the table. Jet Cadet's a pretty high pick priority for Sapphire decks in this format, because just like a 2-1 evasive threat on 2 is great. Next pack, we're up to 20 playables here, so we want like 3 more playables out of this pack. It looks like this pack is content on delivering. We have a Broodnet here, which is going to help our Dread Driver push through damage consistently and also help us win races, just like pseudo removal. It's a slightly worse Shackling Strands in a lot of situations, but plenty reasonable. So we're going to go ahead and pick that up. So we have like a 4th piece of 2 cost removal here, so pretty happy. Usually the decks in this format that I have that get like 4+ pieces of removal, like 4 to 6 pieces of removal feels like the sweet spot. It gives you just enough that if you're like using it appropriately, you can like take out their bomb threats and like leave around their troops that you just don't care about. And here's a Jet Cadet. Just like, again, happy to pick up this cheap troop that's going to help round out our curve aggressively. It's also another card that helps enable our Cloudbounders on the 3rd turn of the game, so definitely the pick. In this next pack, we don't have anything that's too terribly exciting for our deck. We've got a battle agenda here that's probably reasonable, just like draw 2 Underworld Allegiance, summon 2 Dreadlings. There's a Haunting Cry here as well, but I think I'd rather take the battle agenda rather than the card that costs us life. We're also not guaranteed to have Scrounge in the mid to late game for this. Upside to this is we can play it on 2 to cycle it in case we desperately need to hit a resource. I guess that's kind of close, right? How many Dreadling producers do I have already? It's not many, right? I guess Shardsworn's technically on 1, 2, 3. Haunting Cry is probably fine. This has the upside of helping enable Mechanized Aerialist, though. Yeah, I'm going to take the battle agenda for now. And we're at 23 playables now already, so like anything that we're drafting at this point needs to be a strict upgrade for something else in our deck, and I don't think this pack has any cards that I would consider strict upgrades for anything that we're playing. I'm going to go ahead and draft this Awakened Thurigist, I think. It's Socketable Miner, so you can put in the Intimidation Gem in here, and Scrounge 2, it gets +2/+2 permanently, so it could be like a 6/6 pseudo unblockable, but I think on average this is going to be too expensive for our curve. Like, these 2 cards here are going to be cheaper than what their printed cost is. Cloudbounder is going to be cheaper, and Vigilant Duskwing is like our only real card that costs more than 4. It's always going to cost more than 4. Daring Freebooter is probably the most powerful card in this pack, but we're not in the Ardent deck, so we're not really particularly interested in playing that. I don't think Cavern Sentry is something we're interested in doing either. Duskwing Maiden's a card that we might board in against an Ada deck, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up my Duskwing Maiden here and see how that feels. Wow, and it looks like the Explosion wheeled for us, so we're 10 out of 10 going to play that card. It gives a troop -3/-3, and if you Scrounge 1, you summon 3 Dreadlings, so it turns 1 piece of Scrounge into 3 pieces of Scrounge for us. Maybe that's better than this battle agenda, honestly. Just, like, be a little bit more aggressive. Like, we have 2 ways to draw cards in this deck already. We have the Consult and the Blood's Favor, so the battle agenda is probably just not needed in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and take the Warband Ruffian out of here. It's objectively the most powerful card. We're already not playing the first battle agenda, so there's no reason to pick up a second one. Wow, there's just like no one at this table drafting Ruby. Fire in the Hole and Blazing Hammer made it back around. That's so sad. I feel like if I would have read that Ruby was... I feel like Ruby wasn't super open, or maybe there just weren't good Ruby cards in the first pack. I have to go back and rewatch this one and see if maybe I just missed some signals that we should have been moving into this direction and we just didn't hit it. That being said, like, I'm not unhappy with how our draft deck ended up here, so I think we ended up reading the signs reasonably. It's like pick up the dredge end of the pack basically here. We have a lot of we have some double blood and some double sapphire in this deck, so we probably want to just go like 9-8 here. We have slightly more sapphire cards lower on our curve than we do blood, so maybe want to favor sapphire when we're picking. And is this going to be a Theros deck? Do we have enough Dreadlings that that's going to be reasonable? That's probably fine. We have Explosion, and we have Dread Driver, and we have Dread Apprentice, and just, like, making our slightly aggressive troops a little bit better seems fine. Set up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be 7 troops down here at the bottom. Part of me wants to cut this Cerulean Sage, but it's probably too good to do that. Let's go look at our costs here real quick. Both of our forwards are double blood. I'm going to go with one more blood than sapphire here, because our sapphire cards are a little bit more expensive when we need the double sapphire for them. And I'm going to go ahead and play Theros as the champion here, I think. And then Warp Steel Shardsworn needs a socket in him. Go ahead and put that Sapphire of Dread to summon some Dreadlings there, and that's going to be our deck for today. As always, my name is Jeff Hogan. This has been a Draft Today video. Remember, if you liked these videos, to like them on YouTube as well as share them on your social media. You can also support my content in a couple different ways. The first is by supporting my sponsor, HexPrimal.com. They would love to sell you some Hex TCG singles, and if you use the code Jeff5 when you check out on their website, you'll save 5% on your order. You can also support my content directly by subscribing on Twitch for $4.99 a month or becoming a patron on Patreon. There's information on how to do both of those things, as well as the rewards that you get for doing them below the video. Remember, today I am recording all of the matches for these draft videos now. This is not going to be one of the decks that I do with commentary, because commentary is a bit extra work, and we're not going to be doing those every day, but once a week we'll be getting them. But we'll still be matches if you want to watch the matches themselves, and I will be recording a wrap-up video talking about how I felt about the deck and what worked and what didn't after all the matches are done, and that will have all of the commentary your heart could ever desire. So I'll catch you later, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another Draft a Day.